Hi, my name's Steph, and this is for the Pastoral Care final project. And for the final project, I chose to read and research about teen anxiety and what the pastor's or chaplain's role could be in that. To get there, I first had to figure out what anxiety was. I know that I have been in situations before where I felt ill equipped or unequipped to deal with some teenage anxiety or depression or even thoughts of suicide. So I wanted to dig in a little bit more about what's normal and what is cause for concern or needs extra help. This is important to me because I have two boys, 11-year-old and a 14-year-old, and my 14-year-old, when he was younger, he did exhibit some signs of like just random stomach aches or feeling uh, saying that he was worried and he couldn't put his finger on it. And we there was a whole year there, I think, around when he was preteen, like 11 years old, that we had to pray about his worries every night. And I wasn't exactly sure how to best help him through that. And then with this past year being so different and their lives just being in upheaval, as all of ours are, they've started to exhibit these like stomach aches and headaches and just vague symptoms, and they would usually happen around a day that was like a Monday, or there's a big test, or there's a school event, or something that they had been previously looking forward to, but then all of a sudden they couldn't do it because the moment we got to the doors, this random stomach ache that I had never heard of before came up. Something that was unproductive and not virus related at all, but just there. Very real physical symptoms that they couldn't put their finger on why they were having them. So that's part of the reason why I chose it. Another reason is I do work at a large church, and for several years was involved with student ministry, specifically middle school ministry. And there are students who are struggling. We've had kids who, not in our congregation, but in the local area, at 15 years old, have committed suicide. And if we can be a part of the prevention of that and figuring out how to be with these students and walk alongside them before it gets to that point, that would be great. What I learned in my reading and research is that there is still research being done, like a ton of research, especially right now with all of the things that have been happening throughout this year, because anxieties are increasing and things are changing in 2020 and 2021 because of the culture that we live in, because of the time that we live in and the pandemic and unrest and all of the things. So there is a lot of research happening, and it is coming to the forefront of concerns in the Christian community and in just mental health communities. So much so that there is actually a summit happening right now at axis.org. I'll put the link in the forum here if you guys want to check that out, and it's also in my paper as well. But what I learned basically is that for too long, Christians and the Christian community has sort of fallen back on do not be anxious, do not worry, do not fear. And it's become almost this point of shame, whereas a student thinks there's something wrong with them, like they just don't have enough faith if they just can't get it together and not worry anymore. So they view it as another area of failure. And really, it's our area of failure as a Christian community for not recognizing and being able to help them walk through things as Jesus would have us walk through things. We are not supposed to think that troubles are a surprise. He tells us straight up, in the world we'll have trouble, but he's overcome the world, so we should walk with him through it. We don't need to be surprised. So finding out ways to help our students better. And that looks more like, I think, from what I've read, it looks more like, yes, being a listening ear, yes, pointing them to Jesus, yes, helping them find their value in God and in that they were created in the image of God. No matter what they do, they don't have to perform. They just are loved. So walking with them in that as a spiritual, as a faith leader, but then also having other professionals like counselors, Christian or non-Christian counselors, come alongside these students so that we can help them holistically, like have peers come alongside them, have counselors come alongside them, have us faith leaders come alongside these students so that we can surround them with a support team and help them through these stresses and anxieties that I think are really only going to get worse in the next few years before they get better. So I hope you read my paper. I hope you visit that Mental Health Summit by Axis, and grace and peace.